How's the breakfast? It's been good? Hi, Gibson. Yeah, it's me again. It's you again. Twice in a week is a terrible thing. Try 5. We've been bumping into each other at all these functions, so yeah, it's really interesting. My name is Chief Koti, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the guy that invited you to come here for breakfast. So I wanted to find out if the breakfast was good. Was it good?
It was good.
What's your name, sir?
Lyndon?
Lyndon says it was good. Shall we certify it, sir?
Great. Definitely.
Thank you very much to Holiday Inn for their hospitality. Shall we give them a round of applause? So I'm going to be your host this morning. I would like to welcome you to this function, ZMX, where we are interacting with you guys, the asset managers, the financiers. In fact, let's just say the money bags. Shall we say money bags? Look to the guy next to you and say, "Hi, hello, money bag." Okay, so I'm not the guy who's going to do all the talking today. I just want us to have a very interactive session. Colin is going to come up here. He's going to tell us a little bit about, what the ZMX is all about. And then Derek will also come here and give us the strategic direction of what we're trying to achieve. And then we're going to have a conversation, yeah? Look to the guy next to you and say, conversation. It is good to have a microphone, you know? These guys wearing suits and you tell them what to do and they just do it. So he's a naughty guy. All right, at this point in time, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to call upon the chairman for the ZMX to come through and give us a few words, welcome remarks, and then we get the morning started. His name is Derek Odete. Let's give him a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Minister of Lands, Agriculture, Fisheries, Water, and Rural Development, Agricultural Marketing Authority, the World Bank, the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe, the Securities and Exchange Commission, the Bankers Association of Zimbabwe, Zimbabwe Association of Pension Funds, members of the media, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you all to the Zimbabwe Mercantile Exchange, ZMX, breakfast meeting that has brought together various Is that better? Okay. So ZMX is a private sector-led and public sector-supported commodities exchange, which is set to revolutionize the trading of agricultural commodities that seamlessly connects stakeholders and participants in the financing of all agricultural activities, from pre-planting through in-season activities to post-harvesting and trading. Through the adoption and use of technology, ZMX has opened up numerous opportunities for various participants, including bankers, pension funds, and other institutional investors, to play a significant and transformative role in providing timely, secure, and patient financing to support the agricultural industry and in support of national development strategy. We're privileged, ladies and gentlemen, to have you join us here today. As a board, one of our key responsibilities is to ensure that we operate a commodities market that is efficient and of economic value. A credible commodities exchange the world over requires a few things. One being a strong legal and regulatory framework, a fair and transparent market operation, and strong and resilient technology and physical infrastructure. I'm proud to advise you that over the last 2 years, the ZMX promoters, my board and management, with the support of the government of Zimbabwe and the World Bank, have worked tirelessly to develop a commodities exchange that will make our country proud. Its operational framework and trading rules have been gazetted into law through various acts and statutory instruments. ZMX is a marketplace. It's designed to assist you as bankers, as financiers, to extend financing solutions and credit facilities to farmers, buyers, and processors of agro-commodities. ZMX provides a cost-efficient and cost-effective manner of providing secure and guaranteed trading and settlement. The introduction of the commodities exchange has always been geared towards creating a centralized, efficient, and transparent marketplace for all commodities that are eligible for trading. ZMX is designed to operate a warehouse receipt system and a spot market trading platform. The exchange seeks to help reduce post-harvest losses through enabling access to efficient logistics infrastructure and world-class warehousing, through facilitating financing for both producers and buyers, and in ensuring that commodity buyers and off-takers are able to access the desired commodities at market-driven prices. As management will shortly demonstrate, participation on the ZMX is, first of all, voluntary. It is simple, it is straightforward, but it is secure and efficient. We strongly believe that ZMX has the potential to change the lives of every single Zimbabwean and go beyond our borders by connecting external markets to meet your demands as providers of finance and credit facilities to producers, processors, and traders of agro-commodities. I therefore call upon all of you here present to share your invaluable experience and your insights in a manner that will allow all of us to be able to walk on the same path towards a shared destination. Let us therefore look beyond today. Let us embrace innovation, and let us build a tomorrow that we can be proud of for generations to come. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that this engagement could not have come at a better time as we commence the 2022-2023 agricultural season. And our farmers are in need of urgent forms of financing to support their activities. On behalf of the board, I wish to thank the government of Zimbabwe, our regulatory authorities, and our partners and financiers for their continued and ongoing cooperation and trust. We would not have been able to come this far if it wasn't for the tireless effort of so many people who are in this room who have contributed to this. I wish all of us great success in this breakfast forum, and certainly with the work ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Derek. Shall I give him another round of applause? It's kind of tricky, standing in front of people talking so early in the morning. But hey, look at the person next to you and say, welcome. To the other one, say, welcome. It's going to be an interactive morning. I did say this. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here to talk to you, to open up the opportunities for you, just for you to see them. What can you do within the ZMX? But am I qualified to speak about this? Probably not. Let me try and get a guy who understands the vision, who understands what kind of opportunities are there, and is going to unpack them for you right now. So shall we put our hands together, ladies and gentlemen, for the CEO of the ZMX to come through and give us the opportunities within our commodities market. Colin Tafumane.
Thank you, Pastor. Am I right? When you say this to the person next to you, it reminds me of my Sunday experiences. Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I shall ride on protocols already observed. I would like to first thank you for sparing time to be with us this morning as we share with you the journey that we have embarked on, the journey that we believe we want everybody on board so that we work together to achieve our common goal and objectives, being to unlock the undisputed value in our agricultural value chain. So I'm going to just give you a bit of the background. Please forgive me those who have attended a couple of our recent presentations. Some of the stuff you have already come across, but for the benefit of the majority who are meeting with us for the first time, it is very important that we put everything into context. So Zimbabwe Mercantile Exchange is licensed by AMA as an agricultural commodity exchange, which operates a warehouse receipt system as well as a spot market trading platform. It is a private sector-led initiative which is strongly supported by the government of Zimbabwe and other development partners, as the chairman has alluded to. It was motivated by the need to address pricing issues in our agricultural value chain, seasonality challenges in terms of the peaks and troughs in our production cycles, the need to unlock capital that needs to be deployed and sweated, inconsistent application of grading standards. Everyone we have spoken to, especially with regards to the winter wheat crop, talks about the inconsistencies around the grading standards, information asymmetry, various logistical challenges, and most importantly, inadequate private sector agricultural financing. The last point being one of the major reasons why we are here to now discuss how we can collectively address this issue. So ZMX, as I've mentioned, it operates a warehouse receipt system. Warehouse receipt system enables the certification and registration of warehouses that meet the minimum legal and operational standards as defined by both the law as well as the ZMX rules. And then those certified warehouses are then eligible to issue warehouse receipts, which are recognized as security according to our Securities Act. And then it operates a commodity spot market, where now we use those warehouse receipts to facilitate spot market trading and initiate price discovery. And once the first two are working properly, then it will usher us into the era of futures market, which is the direction that we want to take as a market. Futures markets help us in terms of predicting and planning, because based on futures, you'll be able to tell the direction of the price, the production capacity, and all the interventions that are required are then done prior to the harvest rather than react post-harvest. A lot of you are familiar with this diagram, and it just shows the model that we have come up with, which is anchored on a central warehouse receipt system, which is a database or repository of all commodities that would have been deposited and the depositors' information. And that central warehouse receipt database is the platform that connects warehouses for their activities and enables them to issue warehouse receipts to their clients, who will be the depositors and the farmers, as well as ropes in quality inspectors and collateral management companies. And then on the right-hand side, it then facilitates the operation of a spot market for the trading of those warehouse receipts, which is directly connected below to a clearing and settlement system that guarantees delivery versus payment, so that settlement of transactions. So underneath, we then have our banks and lenders who will also be interconnected to the warehouse receipt system, so that their interests are secured when they extend credit facilities to farmers, to buyers, to agro-processors, and all those who seek financing. So just to explain a little bit of, in terms of how the spot market will operate, we know that we have what we call strategic commodities, or those controlled commodities, and the rest of the commodities. And the biggest volumes relate to the so-called strategic commodities, and a lot of people always ask whether the ZMX will actually accommodate those strategic commodities. I'm delighted to say, both in terms of the policy direction that the country is taking, as well as the legal foundations, they both provide for a mechanism to trade those strategic commodities. So for non-strategic commodities, the trading will be based on a continuous auction basis. All buyers and sellers are allowed to participate freely, and market is moved by market forces. For strategic commodities, there are special provisions there, including the wholesale market period, which is driven through a Dutch auction system. And in that Dutch auction system, based on the policy direction that will be taking place, we'll be looking at such mechanisms as reverse auction, forward auction, as well as reserve pricing. That will be either the floor price or maximum price on a purely auction basis, just so that any sort of distortions in the market are addressed through international best practice, international standards. But however, I must say we have been given indications that actually we can allow certain categories of players to actually freely trade some of these strategic commodities. The warehouse receipt system will be the backbone of the exchange, and all participants involved will have to comply with the Warehouse Receipt Act and Warehouse Receipt regulations. Some of the key benefits of the warehouse receipt system, which will be anchoring the commodity exchange, will be the ability to aggregate smallholder farmers and apply even grading standards to those categories of farmers, so that by the time warehouse receipts are actually issued, the standards applied to the smallholder farmers and the large-scale farmers will be all standardized. So there will be no distinction in terms of the quality, in terms of the quantities, and all that. Warehouse receipts provides collateral management, facilitating post-harvest financing to farmers, and the receipts are traded on the spot market and used as a delivery mechanism for settlement of obligations, whether in the spot market or even in future in terms of derivatives market. Settlement obligations will be through the warehouse receipts without necessarily having to move the physical commodity. Trading will just be based on the transfer of ownership of the security on a book entry basis. The key features, some of the key features of a warehouse receipt, it is really a very important instrument if you get hold of it. They are negotiable, they are tradable, and can be used as collateral. Why? Because they are anchored on a law. There is a specific law called Warehouse Receipt Act, Warehouse Receipt Regulations, and in the Securities Act, a warehouse receipt is also recognized as a security. So that makes it, that gives that negotiability, tradability, and can be utilized as collateral. So from an operational point of view, a warehouse receipt will show the name and address of the depositor, the type of commodity, the grade of the commodity. So each warehouse receipt will have that level of detail, the weight and measure of that commodity, the market value at the time that the commodity is deposited, the name and address of the warehouse, exactly where that commodity is located, and interestingly, the name of the warehouse person, because the regulator registers the warehouse as a physical infrastructure, the operator as a company or entity, as well as the warehouse person, that expert that is has the expertise to deal with that commodity. All those details will be available, as well as the name of the grader or quality inspector on the basis of which the warehouse receipt has been issued. This is very important as financiers make very important decisions in terms of which warehouse receipt, commodity, or warehouse operator to lend against. So we are not saying it's a blanket instrument that you just blindly lend against. You can actually define the parameters against which you can filter those warehouse receipts or those commodities you wish to finance against. So I just thought this is topical. We have been asked this many times. The warehouse operator is required by the various pieces of laws to ensure that grading is done on every commodity, on all commodities delivered. The commodity exchange has the power to supervise the activities of the warehouse operator. The grading has to take into account the international best practice standards that relate to such things as moisture content, heat damage, sprout damage, shrinkage, foreign matter, pesticide residue. There are scientific, there is a scientific basis of determining all those parameters before a grading is undertaken. So the exchange will then ensure that the grading is done fairly and properly and according to law. When you are buying, so say the commodity has been deposited by farmer A and the warehouse receipt has been issued, and you go to the exchange and you buy the commodity, and you get the warehouse receipt which claims that the warehouse, the commodity is of this grade and all that, the buyer is a right to request for a second grading process through the exchange, which will be actually initiated so that you verify and confirm that the grading that has been put on the warehouse receipt is correct. Products can be commingled according to the grading categories, which means that the warehouse operator has an obligation for the aggregate of the commodities under each grade. Banks have access to the warehouse receipt system, where they will go and actually lay out their terms of lending, which can be on a commodity by commodity basis. And the microphones are tiring. Should I speak a bit slowly or what? So the financiers can indicate the interest per commodity, the charges, the haircut that they apply, the lending period, the tenor, the maximum amount they can lend against that commodity, the minimum amount. The reason why they are able, they are required to do this is so that the holders of warehouse receipts, when they go to their module, they are able to actually view all the lenders or financiers available and the various terms, and they can pick and choose who to apply for facilities from. Beyond just the lending, we just thought we could share with you some of the opportunities that a regulated commodities exchange avails to financiers, whether they are banks, pension funds, and other institutional investors. So the requirement in the full cycle, include working capital, include inputs, include off-taking the commodity and the like. So what we are saying is traditionally we've been used to direct lending, where banks are lending, the farmers and all that. And this will continue. There's nothing that will change. But what ZMX is bringing in, it is bringing in a bit of increased security by providing stop order system, a centralized stop order system to protect the interest of the lenders once warehouse receipts start getting issued. So if the bank has already lent to farmers and they avail that information to ZMX, by the time warehouse receipts or marketing season starts and warehouse receipts are being issued, the ZMX is able to now register the lien or interest of the banks. Obviously, the return that the bank is always looking for is based on the interest. So that is what we are used to. Now coming ZMX, it has introduced now the warehouse receipt financing. For warehouse receipt financing enable the post-harvest financing for agriculture. So you have harvested and you have put your commodity in the storage facilities. And as you know, some of our products are produced on a seasonal basis. And, you then, the prices are lowest when there is a glut, when you have just harvested. And then they firm as you move further away from the harvest time. So with the warehouse receipt financing arrangements, you are able, a farmer now has a number of options. Number one, you sell directly to off-takers immediately. Number two, you hold your commodity, you hold your receipt, and then you sell as and when you feel the prices are better. And number three, you then seek financing against your warehouse receipt and then have access to liquidity. And when the price is firm, you then settle your obligations and you remain with your profit. For the warehouse receipt financing, we are targeting banks, microfinance institutions, and capital market investors who would want exposure to that type of instrument. We think in terms of our analysis, there is scope to actually try to raise up to $10 million in warehouse receipt financing, and security is based on the warehouse goods, which are used as collateral, and the return is based on interest or margin on discount, so there can be warehouse receipt discounting. Then the next will be a commodity fund. This is where we are moving closer and closer to the equities market, where we are saying under the Collective Investment Scheme Act, which allows the formation of various collective investment schemes, one of which is specifically mentioned in the Securities Act, is a commodity fund. So we are saying a commodity fund can be put together, and we have a couple of asset managers who are already working on such. One of them will be presenting shortly. And that commodity fund will enable, it is a listed listed product that enables investors, institutional investors, pension funds, to actually invest in that commodity fund, which stands as an off-taker of certain commodities based on the investment strategy of the commodity fund, which then can off-take the commodity. At the moment, we have hundreds of thousands of metric tons of wheat that have been delivered, and buyers may not have immediate liquidity to take up that wheat, and the commodity fund can step in, take up that wheat, and actually put in a reasonable margin on it, which will be almost like a return on investment, and then enter into forward contracts with commodity buyers so that they then drip feed the market as and when buyers' cash flows allow them to take the commodity. So this will be secured by warehouse receipts, and there is a target of about $10 million to raise funds through commodity funds, and this can, the return can be capital gains as well as. Okay, lastly, we are advocating for longer dated paper. Generally, the instruments or the lending that is prevailing in the agricultural space is very short term, and we are looking for longer term, such as medium term notes and bonds, and these are now going into the securities sector, Securities Act space, where instruments there must have a tenor of at least 12 months and above, and we are then encouraging the market to structure medium-term notes and bonds that can be revolving funds to finance agriculture. These can be they can utilize warehouse receipts financing to offtake the produce, and buyers can utilize the same to access financing. And the idea behind this is to have a sinking fund arrangement where whenever the commodity is being off-taken or sold, and the beneficiaries of the medium-term notes are then processing and earning or generating cash flows. These cash flows go into a sinking fund. The sinking fund is then used as security that ensures that investors are paid. So we are looking at a situation where we will have a cocktail of instruments, some short-term, some long-term, so that we increase the capacity of the private sector to come in, to step in, and also finance agriculture. So we are targeting over 55 million US dollars to be harvested or from the capital markets and financial institutions through the various instruments, and help strengthen our agricultural financing. There have been questions about the government's commitment to this initiative of a commodity exchange. And my response to that, I just thought I would preempt this, was just in terms of reading NDS 1, and we just extracted a few points that seem to answer the question as to whether the government has, is strongly committed to this initiative. So Section 142, it talks about government intentions to operationalize the commodity exchange, which should be supported by a well-functioning regulated warehouse receipt system. So this happened even before ZMX came into being. So by the time we went to government to talk about ZMX, it was easy because they had already put that into the policy framework. They've also provided for the issuance of medium to long-term securities and listing of bonds on the securities exchange. Again, it speaks to the point that I've just talked about, where the capital markets is being now called upon to come and structure longer-dated instruments that support agriculture. Improving predictability of marketing and trade policies to strengthen existing agricultural markets, and this will be buttressed by establishing a well-functioning regulated warehouse receipt system combined with a commodity exchange system through it talks about, through which strategic grain reserves will be stocked, and then institute legal reforms to support fair and transparent pricing mechanisms, establishment of an agricultural commodity exchange, and access to funding through a warehouse receipt system. So, ladies and gentlemen, this confirms that the government actually is not just paying lip service. They put it in writing. NDS 1 is out there. You are all at liberty to read it. But to support that, we have just taken a part of the 2023 national budget, which actually specifically indicated that as part of a wider agricultural reforms, agricultural marketing framework will be reviewed to allow the development of a strong agriculture commodity market anchored on the Zimbabwe Mercantile Exchange. This is verbatim from the national budget. I must say this is the third year running that the national budget has specifically mentioned the intentions of the government to support the commodities exchange. So I just thought I would share with you this just in case there is any doubt about the government support of the commodities exchange. The legal foundation of the warehouse receipts, as I mentioned, this is based on a very strong legal foundation. There is a Warehouse Receipt Act, which governs the registration of warehouses as well as issuance of warehouse receipts. There is the Warehouse Receipt General Regulations 2020 that operationalizes the Warehouse Receipt Act. There is the Agricultural Marketing Act, through which ZMX rules are gazetted, and there is a Securities Act that speaks to things that I've mentioned, such as commodity funds and medium-term notes and bonds and all that. So all those things that we are proposing, they actually are anchored on a very strong legal foundation. In terms of the regulatory landscape, we have a number of regulators whose eyes will be on the activities of the commodities exchange. Number one, the Agricultural Marketing Authority, which regulates ZMX, the Registrar of Warehouses, At the moment, it is currently under the plant quarantine or at the Ministry of Agriculture that licenses and regulates warehouse operators. And before any warehouse operator comes to ZMX, they must have gone through plant quarantine. We have a rigorous process of actually inspecting and certifying the warehouse operators. And they give us recourse in case a warehouse operator goes wayward. There is the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe that regulates banks and other financial institutions. I must point out there was a special committee that was driving, on behalf of the government, that was driving the establishment of the warehouse receipts, and it was actually chaired by RBZ, and they are very much eloquent and supportive of this initiative. Securities and Exchange Commission regulates issuance and trading of securities, such as futures and warehouse receipts. Then the Insurance and Pension Commission regulates pension funds. Pension funds are also of interest to us so that they can also look at how they can also deploy some of the funds into the agricultural value chain if they find the returns attractive enough to their beneficiaries. Then the Zimbabwe Mercantile Exchange itself operates as a self-regulating organization through SI 184, in which the ZMX rules are gazetted, which gives it power to regulate and supervise activities of participants on the commodities exchange. So that is the regulatory landscape, ladies and gentlemen. Then there are a few operational controls that I thought I would share with you that may be of interest to the bankers. As part of the certification of warehouse operators, the registrar also certifies the grading and weighing equipment. So a warehouse operator cannot just come up with any scale of their choice and all that. Every piece of equipment that is involved in weighing and grading has to be certified and approved by the registrar. The warehouse operator must submit monthly returns by the 10th of the following month of its daily stock summary. They must submit this to ZMX on the basis of all warehouse receipts that have been issued. The warehouse is mandated to ensure that both commodities and commodities in the warehouses maintain the standards that against which they have been issued. ZMX enforces those standards and also enforces centralized collateral management. If the grading is contested, the depositor has a right to request for second grading, and the exchange inspects warehouses. In addition to the registrar inspecting, the exchange also inspects warehouses and audits commodities. Warehouse receipts are issued on security papers, and they are held in custody by custodians. So how does the financier participate? It's very easy. They go through the ZMX financier onboarding process, log on to the banking module, populate their specific lending rules, and the depositors now is free, or the holder of the warehouse receipt is now free to log in and select facilities that are of interest to them. The warehouse receipt, once facilities have been extended through the warehouse receipt system, ZMX actually registers lien on the warehouse receipt in favor of the bank that has extended facilities. The pledged warehouse receipts are locked for any further transactions till they are paid up. Depositor may split the warehouse receipt, and the bank may release only part that has been paid up, and the bank may use the foreclosure function when required. This question was quite topical last week when we had another meeting with the banks to say the foreclosure process, is it already provided in the rules of the exchange? And I must confirm, I must emphasize that the foreclosure process is already part of the gazetted ZMX rules that ensure the immediate transfer of the ownership or title upon default to the financier, and empowers the financier to dispose of the commodity and recover their dues, and then pay the rest to the depositor. So far, the milestones, we have 26 warehouses that have now been certified and onboarded. We have 5 financial institutions that have come on board. We have 9 merchants that have registered on ZMX. We have listed 6 commodities. And according to the Warehouse Receipt Act, there are 49 commodities that are eligible. In both our pilot and commencement of operations, we have so far issued 220,000 metric tons worth of warehouse receipts on maize, 72,000 metric tons for wheat and 44 metric tons for soybeans. The value of all the commodities under the current warehouse receipt system now exceeds $100 million. So where are we going now? We are now, you saw that we have put 72,000 metric tons of wheat. They are now on the warehouse receipt system. We are now about to commence trading of wheat spot contracts. This should commence any time from now. And we will be listing the rest of the grains and oil seeds that are provided for in the Warehouse Receipt Act. And in the short to medium term, we will be listing horticultural products. You know, these have very nice liquidity because they are not affected by the seasonal fluctuations. And these are very fast cash products that you might also find interesting in terms of financing opportunities. We have also been allowed to extend our services to livestock, and there is some initiatives and innovations that we are already exploring from other countries that we want to also bring in to extend our services to livestock products. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you.
Thank you very much, Colin. Shall we give him another round of applause, ladies and gentlemen? I just couldn't wonder, but I kept wondering, why are the mics going off? Peds are my bad says. Let's give him another round of applause. I hope you got enlightened, guys. Anyone got enlightened? Did you get to understand what this thing is about? Did you? Naima comrades. Did you? Colin, well done. So, guys, at this point in time, I'm going to call upon Mr. John Bere to come through and give us a few words. Please do come, sir. Let's give him a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Pedzama Bat.
Oh, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm riding on the same wave of all protocols observed. I'm standing in for Mr. John Bere. He went to attend a serious commitment. My name is Innocent Maposa. I'm from Startup. The transaction motive. If you are to look at what Colin has presented in line with the agricultural space, we've heard of liquidity, where we find that farmers are facing challenges, and we are coming in to say, for commodities trading in Zimbabwe through ZMX, there is need for liquidity, of which the fund, the Stratus Commodity Fund, will come in to avail liquidity in the marketplace, and also in as much as playing the intermediary role of being a market maker between farmers and off-takers. And also looking at the space of private players. We want to engage private players in such a way that they move funds from their own portfolios into the space of commodities trading as an investment opportunity through Financial Securities Exchange Commission. Our motto at Stratas, we believe in keeping interest aligned always. We take our own money and invest with investors' funds in such a way that our trading, it won't be diluted with any element of greed or any element of shortcomings, of which we tend to be sharing all the upside of the investment. We want to create We want to create linkage between producers and processors through capital markets, of which from one end you can see that that is wheat that has been produced, and it has got to go through the Financial Securities Exchange to off-takers who are going to be processing for the market. Problems that we have noticed, it's pricing challenges. At the moment, the government of Zimbabwe buying strategic grains, strategic commodities from farmers at predetermined price, which is costly compared to an open market transaction where price determination is done through the natural forces of supply and demand. This creates a moral hazard for arbitrage and inflates the prices. And also problem 2, currency volatility challenges. Commodity pricing is often set in our volatile market currency. This presents challenges for both government and the farmers, as pricing has to continuously change, and often it is done at a rate lower than the prevailing market rates. This, coupled with delays in actual payment, makes it difficult for farmers to plan and return to their fields. It also encourages side marketing, much to the detriment of contractors. The impact, the problem it is having on the agriculture industry and people's lives. We're going to look at farmers, agro-processors, and the government at large. Farmers now shying away from farming due to delays in payments, income eroded by inflation, price uncertainties, at times no market at all for the product, replacement costs too high. All farmers have this problem. For agro-processors are increasingly frustrated because cannot access product, prices are unfavorable compared to import parity, quality issuance, liquidity constraints, are actively looking for a solution. The government, like all other governments, food security is something which is at the core of their governance. The government is battling with food security because limited fiscal resources, limited market-making abilities, farmer discontent, low levels of production, few existing solutions don't meet their needs. The solution. We have come to design that flow process, the Status Commodity Fund, where if you are to look at the Status Commodity Fund is going to create units, and those units will run through the broker, and the broker will issue those units to investors, either through a private placement or an IPO, and investors will channel in cash via the brokers into Status Commodity Fund, and the cash will be invested in the following manner: 70% via the ZMX, physical commodity warehouse receipts or warehouse certificate, 20% via quasi-debt instruments, and 10% money market, of which, if you are to look at the bottom there, via ZMX, we'll be getting trading income, where we'll be doing more of invoice discounting, and quasi-debt, we are getting interest income, where we'll be doing more of contract farming and also discounting on other products which are present, and money market will be getting also interest income. And the cash dividend will be channeled back via Status Commodity, where fees will be charged in terms of management fees, trust fees, and audit fees. And the dividend income will be channeled back into the market, where investors hold units, and those units will be traded at the Financial Securities Exchange, where investors will be buying and selling on themselves, and dividend will be paid to respective unit holders. So we chose to put 10% on the money market because if you are to look at NB, the money market portfolio will provide the fund an immediate return as the commodity and quasi-debt portfolio are being built up. Any questions? I guess the presentation was on point. If there are any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Maposa. Shall we give him another round of applause? The gentleman with the presentation on point. All right, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to call upon at this point the ZAPF Director General, Mrs. Sandra Musevenzo, to come through and give us a few words. Let's give her a round of applause and encourage her as she comes up.
Good morning to you all protocols observed. I've just come through to give a few remarks. I know the pension space is some animal which people also don't understand, full of questions. And as we're speaking around the table, I then thought, I also need to educate my colleagues on one or two things. So we'll be doing a session. So just to start off with, to understand that a pension fund it accumulates capital to be paid out as pension for employees when they retire at the end of their careers. So people should know the importance of at the end of their careers, not during your working life. Pension funds typically aggregate large sums of money to be invested into the capital markets, such as stocks and bond markets, to generate profit for these returns to be awarded to the members when they retire. You'll find that today's pensions mostly are managed by private companies on behalf of employees, on behalf of unions, on behalf of government, and as well as employers. These companies are responsible for safeguarding and growing pension savings so that this can be paid out to workers in monthly checks after they retire. So you then come to say, what are the investment objectives of a pension fund? That is capital preservation, return, capital growth, and above all, regulatory compliance. So you find by nature in Zimbabwe, pension funds are obliged to invest at least 20% in prescribed assets. And as we were discussing with Colin to say, if these structures then address the prescribed assets status, and if they're awarded prescribed assets, it will also be a plus to pension funds because this is a regulatory requirement. So it's one of the objectives that we also look into. According to the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, agriculture investment funds, which have experienced significant growth in numbers and volume in recent years, have underscored public and private sector interest to help address the resource constraints of achieving food security. So it is also key that we grow attractiveness of agricultural investment projects as profitable business ventures, which have played a role in the emergence and growth of such funds, especially in light of high agricultural prices and improved business climate that favor long-term investments. So when we come to pension funds, as we highlighted, that it is also key, and it is also their role in financing the agricultural space. Pension funds also serve as fundamental sources of corporate finance, both debt and equity. I think other speakers and even Colin also highlighted on this to say they are now coming up with structures for medium, short-term, and long-term debt, which would also be a space and welcome to pension funds to look into. It is also believed that the next billionaires will come from the agricultural space. And it seems most people ignore this space because what is imperative and what everyone in this room thinks of first is to eat before you can think of what to drive, how to dress, or anyhow. Because even when we started the morning, we started by eating. So it is important that we finance this, the agricultural space. Food security, I think, is also key. And in Zimbabwe, we need to pay attention to this so that we reclaim our bread basket in the southern region. You also look at our climatic conditions, which are also very favorable and very good. And this year, as you can witness, that the rains are also promising. So it is also important that we invest in the agricultural space. But however, partly due to lack of environmental policy support, other barriers to investment include lack of appropriate investment vehicles and also market liquidity. I think in the patient space, we've been suffering very much in terms of liquidity. And we've had some liquidity constraints in the past 6 months or so. Also, there are some regulatory disincentives and lack of knowledge, track record and expertise among the pension funds to fund in these investments and other associated risks. So to tap into the source of capital, we say governments and including players like ZMX to have a role in ensuring that attractive opportunities and instruments are available to pension funds and institutional investors. Recommendation, however, is to support the environmental policy backdrop, create right investment vehicles, and that also foster liquidity markets, to support investment in agriculture, remove investment barriers, provide the education, guidance to investors, and improve pension fund governance. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Musebenzo. Shall we encourage her as she takes a seat? Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Those beautiful, wonderful presentations. I hope they enlightened you like they did with me. So at this point in time, allow me to open the floor to the House. If you have any queries, comments, questions that you'd like to ask, particularly to Colin, he's ready to answer those questions. I can tell you that for a fact. So please feel free just to raise your hand. Then we'll come to you. Silence can either mean we understood very well what was said, or it just went right past. Do we have a roving mic? Oh, are they working now? This one works.
Thank you. I thought I would set the ball rolling in terms of questions. But actually I wanted to commend Colin and team for the wonderful work which they are doing in terms of assisting our agricultural sector to actually be on the level. I think well done. Just a question on the global developments in terms of commodity prices and probably what the plans are. I think we've seen prices going up, we've seen prices coming down, and how this will probably impact the trading on the local exchange, and what sort of risk mitigants are there for potential investors.
What makes this question tough is that it's coming from my regulator. So I hope it's not part of a regulatory assessment. Yes, we don't operate in isolation. We are part of the global village, and definitely what we are trying to do here, because the biggest issue has always been producer price setting, which sometimes is divorced from global prices, and that would probably make our markets a bit out of sync with global markets. And the case in point is the current situation where wheat price of 620 was announced, local prices were said to be around 300, import parity up to about 410, 420. So we have stepped forward as ZMX and said, look, as an exchange, we are not supposed to have any say in terms of the prices. What we are there to do is to facilitate a marketplace where demand and supply forces come into play. And when that happens, there is going to be local equilibrium of the price. So it doesn't mean if wheat is $300 in Ukraine, it has to be $300 in Zim. There are always frictions that come in, which enable the price to also find its equilibrium in Zim. So what we are then saying as ZMX is to say, let the market now determine based on local prices, based on our country's situation, and then bids and offers are put in and an equilibrium is found. Now, food is a bit of a problem because there is the issue of food security, especially in certain commodities that affect the food security of the nation. And the government has tended to come in with, support schemes. And we then said those subsidies and ZMX can coexist. So if we have demand and supply forces coming in and the price is moving in a direction that is detrimental to the welfare of the people, then the government can come in now and put a support pricing mechanism to actually support the local or address local factors. So in a nutshell, yes, global prices are going to have a bearing, but they will be part of the information that feeds into demand and supply forces. I must also mention that even in producer price setting, what I realized is that the government also looks at global markets. So that has always been factored in. The only difference is that you no longer just announce one price at the beginning of the season, you allow market forces to come in.
Thank you very much, Colin, for coming through there. Anyone else with a contribution or comment, question? Anyone? He's coming again, the regulator.
To ensure dialogue keeps going on. So follow up to that, probably you did mention that perhaps someone is not happy with the grade, they could ask for a regrading. Just wanted to find out how satisfied you are with perhaps, let's assume it's taken out of the commodity exchange and it has to be resolved through court processes. The commercial dispute resolution process, perhaps how satisfied or how happy are you with the process currently?
So the ZMX rules or the SI actually have a big section on dispute resolution, a whole big section. During the time that the rules were being put in place, that was a very big area of focus for the legal minds, the Attorney General's office and all that stuff. So it is an escalation of the process. So the first line is where someone complains about the grading of course, and then they are given a second chance, and ZMX brings in independent quality inspectors who will do the inspection and issue a grading certificate. I think we have some that we have been talking to in the House that have years and years of expertise in grading inspections and all that. Then, if not satisfied, then they go through the internal dispute resolution within ZMX. So ZMX is required through its structures to have a dispute resolution or a complaints management mechanism. So there has to be a board committee that speaks to resolving these disputes. Beyond that, it then is escalated to the regulator to also adjudicate. Beyond that, it goes to arbitration. From arbitration, then it goes through court processes. So in terms of the rules, the SI 184 has a whole section that speaks to dispute resolution.
Thank you very much. Anyone prompted to speak? Yeah, there we go.
How best are you working with the government of Zimbabwe in terms of those prices? Because we've got,
We can hear you, sir. Just go ahead.
we've got a lot of prices that are being charged within the industries. So how best are you working in terms of pricing?
Colin, you want to take that?
May I request Ms. Kapembeza? Ms. Kapembeza or Mr. Mkuruba. Ms. Kapembeza is from the Ministry of Agriculture, and I think they are our principals on that policy issue, and maybe Amma might want to say one or two things about that. Thank you.
We can start with the ministry, right? All right, the ministry has deferred to the regulator. The issue of price policies goes back again to the ministry.
Okay, thank you, and morning to you all. The ministry follows the policy in terms of pricing. We follow a consultative process in terms of working with the farmer unions, with the regulator, and also with other key stakeholders within the various industries. For example, maize would work with GMB, the millers, the stock feed manufacturers for soybean, the soybean oil expressors, and in terms of the pricing, usually we use the cost plus pricing, and closely in relation to that, in terms of issues to do with finances, we also have the engagement of Ministry of Finance at technical level and also at a higher level, and also coming in with the Zimbabwe Mercantile Exchange. We are currently also working with them, and taking the opportunity also that all these issues are discussed at different levels. And we also have the crops working group, whereby it's chaired by the Honorable Minister, Dr. Masuka, and also further engagements are also done at that level. So in terms of coming up with the producer price or the pre-planting price, we carry out a consultative process. Thank you.
Thank you very much to the ministry. They finally took that one and they answered it. I hope you answered, my brother. Let's give the gentleman an opportunity. Maybe if you could just say your name as you are coming, guys, so that we know each other, isn't it?
My name is Gilbert Kumbo and Yarazo. I was fascinated by Colin towards the end, talking about the warehouses. My question is, can you shed a little bit more light on the reporting of those warehouses? Where are they? Where I heard that there's a number, and I think there's an intention to increase the numbers. Can you please also shed light on the direction and perhaps physical locations of those warehouses? Are we going to have a skew towards Region 5? And that's the direction on these warehouses. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Colin, please take it away.
Thank you. I will request my colleague who is holding the mic already. Herbert is the expert in terms of infrastructure, warehouse, logistics, and all that. So I think he will be able to handle that one.
Thank you very much, Colin, and thank you very much for the question. My name is Herbert Murobo. So in terms of warehouse coverage for the commodities exchange, we have different warehouse operators that are there. There's GMB. GMB is a registered warehouse operator, which includes all their depots across the country. We've also got bulk logistics. Bulk logistics warehouses which are in Harare are registered under the warehouse receipt system. We've got S&P logistics also registered under that warehouse receipt system. We are also in discussions with Kaku, which has over 200 warehouses in the rural areas across Zimbabwe. So these are the warehouse operators that will be coming under the commodities exchange. We are still open to recruiting more warehouses because we want to ensure that the farmer has access to registered warehouses at arm's length, close to where they are doing their farming operations. So the recruitment process is ongoing. Thank you.
So if I have my warehouse anywhere in the country, I can just look for you guys and you'll be able to assist, right? Is that it, Herbert?
Sorry.
I'm saying if I have my warehouse anywhere in the country, when I feel like this is a property that I can use as a warehouse, what?
Yes, so in terms of the process of being registered as a warehouse operator, Colin did highlight the process. We've got the Department of Plant Quarantine, which is under the Ministry of Agriculture. So there's a process that you have to follow in terms of registration with them, and inspection then there follows. And once that approval has come, that approval is then sent to the commodities exchange, which is ZMX. And ZMX then certifies after they have fulfilled their approval process. And once that is done, you become a registered ZMX warehouse under the commodities exchange.
Okay, thank you very much for shedding light. Ma'am.
Okay, my name is Gamchirai Kapembeza from the ministry. Just to add on what Mr. Herbert has mentioned, government and ZMX has partnered with the World Bank, whereby the World Bank has facilitated the carrying out of a warehouse receipt infrastructure audit to see how many warehouses are currently operational where the possibility also of having more warehouses, because you'd realize that it's not only the grains that are on the warehouse receipts, but there are also other commodities that are coming in, like the horticulture. So we would want also to see how the cold chain facility will come in. So currently, World Bank has completed that audit, and they are yet to present to the ministry and ZMX what they found on the ground, because you'd realize that at ward level and district level, the farmers will also cry foul that maybe GMB facilities are far away from us, or other warehouses that are registered that are far away. So we would want to bring the operationalization of the warehouse closer to the farmer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That makes a lot of sense. I do hope they will come back with what they've found, and hopefully an increase in that warehousing system, because I think this is how this can be successful. Madam, you have something to say?
Yes, a very good morning. It's a question I was...
Please go ahead,
If I
madam.
can come through.
Please go ahead.
My name is Clara Mukosera from Zimbabwe Women's Microfinance Bank. My question is the minimum quantity of produce for deposit. Because I work with very small micro businesses where the little loan amount can be as little as $50, $100. Do we have provision for working with small, in fact, not even small, micro farmers at communal level?
Thank you very much. Colin, would you like to take that one?
Thank you. The platform is actually designed with the small farmer in mind, so it has a very robust aggregation capability that enables small quantities to be aggregated, either automatically in terms of the location or deliberately by the farmers who can actually invite each other to form a sort of aggregation group that then deposits the commodity. So yes, it is already catered for. So you'll be delighted to know that the deployment of the system includes availing a USSD platform, So all they need is to dial a short code, and they actually start the process of requesting for collection, whatever quantities which then get aggregated.
Thank you, Colin, for that. Madam?
Sandra Msevenzo from Zimbabwe Association of Pension Funds. My question, however, is when all is said and done, what is the end game? Where are we taking this product? What prices are we targeting? Because I think from a pension perspective, you didn't want to look at the numbers in the return. What is really the end game? Are we exporting? Is it firstly satisfying the local market? What is really the end game? Thank you.
You'll find that we are looking at, so far we are looking at 49 commodities. 45 of them freely tradable, can be exported, full demand and supply forces come into play, and basically the investor is just looking at their investment strategy, look at the behavior of that commodity. I think this is where specialists like Stratas come in, because they have stepped forward and said, we have a special expertise in commodities. And when we select commodity A, B, C, D, E, these are the returns that we can offer. We can offer, and based on the metrics that they will come up with. So but the cycle of agricultural commodities is not that long. A couple of months shelf life and all that. Within that cycle, one is able to look at the demand behavior, the price behavior, as well as the projected returns from that. Now, when it comes to the other 4 that are controlled, those ones are obviously affected by the policies in play. So if you are going to take exposure in maize, for example, and there is going to be a drought, you need to then factor in the fact that government can decide that they are the sole buyer of the commodity for food security purposes. If there is excess supply, then government can allow full market forces. If there is oversupply, they can stop imports. If there is abundant supply, they can allow exports and things like that. So those 4 commodities that relate to food security, they are going to really need to speak to the government policies of the day, but the rest, pure market forces.
Thank you, Colin. Derek has something there?
And I suppose the question on what the end game is how big do we think that the agricultural market could be with the right sort of financing, with the right sort of support? When I mentioned in the earlier speech that we're looking at significant and transformational impact. So we were talking to Afreximbank earlier last week, and they basically said that inter-Africa trade has increased, but it's still sitting at sub 20%. So what is the potential of the local farmers to be able to supply demand in Africa? And I think this is what we'll start seeing when there's a deeper market and support of funding agriculture in the country.
Thanks for that clarity.
Thank you. Jonathan Mkurova is my name from AMA. My question is directed at Stratas, who presented on the commodity fund. I just wanted to find out what is the appetite for setting up this commodity fund from the bankers, the pension funds, and so on.
Mr. Maposa, would you like to take that one right off the bat?
Yes, thank you very much for the question. Yes, we are looking at prescribed asset status in line with the pension fund, and also the liquid asset status in line with the bankers, and also some tax incentives if the government is permitting to give us some. I guess maybe that's all.
Siyabonga Maposa. Anyone else with anything burning? Going once, twice, and the gentleman comes in.
Thank you and good morning. Chris Price, SIS Inspections. I'd just like to add a quick note on a very practical level. Most of the participants here are, judging by their suits and everything, sit in offices and push pieces of paper from left to right. Very important, a very important function. I'd just like to congratulate ZMX for taking this project as far as it has got and having you guys present. On a practical level, I think there's nothing really very new that needs to be put in place. And we, as SIS, are certainly ready and able to put in place the necessary quality and quantity verifications. We're able to offer a tiered custodial service, if that's required. And indeed, we're able to offer some logistics backup, if that's required. But one thing I would like to ask the powers that be to look at before we go headlong into this is we need to do some work on harmonization of parameters and standards. They are well known, but different sectors of the agricultural industry are working with slightly different parameters and standards. So I think it's important that that is addressed. And within that, you've got a sort of a tiered approach. First of all, there's the interpretation of those parameters. Then secondly, implementation and enforcement. How is that going to be? Enforcement sounds a strong word, but general implementation. And from there, once that's in place, there's a general education and acceptance within the market. And the proof of the pudding is really getting the concept up and running. Sure, there are always little hiccups at all kinds of levels, but generally, once the system is up and running, has been there for a few months, weeks, months, the industry gains confidence and the whole modality starts to work. So from our point, we're very sure, we're not the only players, but we're very sure that we've got something practical and constructive to add to this big picture, and we're looking forward very much to having a place to get involved. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very interesting issue on the standards and the enforcement's quality, quantity control. My brother, if you can come through, do you want to take that one quickly, Colin, and then we can have you, sir, coming through.
Sorry, my question was almost related to what the last speaker has commented on. My name is Wellington. I'm with NetBank. My assumption is that all these commodities will be insured one way or another, because at the point of aggregation, we are assuming that the moisture content of the grain will be up to scratch. But here we're dealing with nature. Things can go wrong. Are these commodities, where they are sitting, going to be insured, and who is going to insure them? Thank you, Mr. Facilitator.
Thank you very much. Colin, maybe you can take those two.
Thank you. Thanks, Christopher. I think to start with, in terms of harmonization of standards, it's one of the biggest benefits of having a commodities exchange, because now you have a structure that has legal instruments to enforce the harmonization of standards. So as part of the ZMX rules, the issue of standards is very important. In fact, you just don't issue a warehouse receipt. You also issue a grading certificate. And that grading certificate is not a random grading where you just say by use of your eyes, it is grade A, B, C, D, E. Each of the grades have to be defined technically in terms of moisture content levels and all those things. However, on top of all that, ZMX now has the power to bring in entities like you to now come in as the eyes and ears of ZMX in terms of certifying those quality standards. On an ongoing basis, as far as inspections are concerned, ZMX also will call upon independent quality inspectors like yourselves to go in and do the inspections on the exchange's behalf. So that is the benefit of having a commodities exchange, so that you harmonize all those fragmented standards that are applied inconsistently. When it comes to aggregation, sorry, what was the question?
Insurance.
Oh, yes. So insurance is a fundamental part of the Warehouse Receipt Act and regulations. So the actual act requires that once you are registered, certified warehouse operator, you must take out insurance. And that insurance within the SI, it actually specifies all the risks that insurance must cover. And on top of that, that insurance, the beneficiary of the insurance cover is the registrar, so that even when it is an act of God, the proceeds actually go to the registrar for distribution to the beneficiaries of the commodities. So ZMX will also not admit an operator that does not have insurance cover, but that would have already been safeguarded by the fact that for you to be certified, you have to have insurance cover.
Thank you very much, Colin. Anyone else, ladies and gentlemen? Shall we say at this point there are no questions, comments, and contributions? Would it be safe to say that? Okay, at that, then we shall go straight into our vote of thanks. I would like to call upon Fadzai Pedzisai to come through and give us a vote of thanks. Let's encourage her as she comes.
Good morning to our honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen. All protocols are observed. I'll try to keep it short and sweet. I think, as already mentioned, most of us in our suits and ties are ready to go back to our offices. So I'm very delighted to be here with you all this morning to our ZMX Financiers Breakfast Forum. I think it's safe to say that it's been a success. On behalf of the Zimbabwe Mercantile Exchange Board of Directors, I'd like to thank you all for heeding the call to participate in further developing our commodities market. I'd also like to express our sincere gratitude to our speakers, the Agricultural Marketing Authority, the Securities and Exchange Commission of Zimbabwe. Your continued support and encouragement to innovate drives us to ensure that the nation's commodities exchange, ZMX, is a success. As highlighted by the chairman, participation of the exchange is voluntary, and our mantra sums this up in a very few words: ZMX, mkambo wenu, musika wenu. So as we leave here today, I hope the conversations that we've had this morning continue, and we look forward to receiving your application forms. I think we will be walked through how to make those applications, and we continue to share the ideas and come up with innovative products for our agricultural market. In closing, let us all have a pleasant day. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Fadzai Pedzisai. It's got a little rhyme into it, isn't it? Shall we give a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen? She is the ZMX company secretary, so any legal issues and all these things that you need, she'll be here to take care of them. So it leaves me with nothing but much gratitude to say, if you did not have your breakfast, please, the food is right there. Come and join me, because I'm about to have my breakfast today. But otherwise, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Please enjoy your day, be productive, and allow us also to say have a Merry Christmas and a prosperous 2023. And remember to get the forms and start coming to umkambo wenu, musika wenyu. Tinotenda. Bafuna zone. Enda.